Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Becoming Magnetic, where we believe that powerful women deserve powerful love lives.
Indeed, today's episode is all about expanding your capacity to love and be loved and challenging yourself to grow into the kind of partner that you're hoping to attract.
And we'll be talking about what it means to move beyond waiting for the perfect love and how to discern where to invest your time and energy, and also come from a place of wholeness, not scarcity.
That's so important. I'm looking forward to that piece. So I hope you are too. We invite you to grab your journal, take a deep breath, enjoy the New York City traffic.
And the beeps, that's not coming from us, unfortunately.
and explore what it means to become really the love that you want to receive. So let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. If you've been following us for a little bit now, and hopefully you are, and watching episodes, you know that we are talking about the whole matter of becoming magnetic, becoming that attraction for the things that you want in life, and specifically talking about romantic love. And today, what we really want to be able to explore is how is it that you are actually embodying what it is that you're looking for. Last week, we started looking at the whole matter of what are the specific things that you need from others. Really honoring that. No, now that you know what those things are, and if you haven't, then let's go back and check that episode before. But if you haven't, do that. But now we are saying, well, if that's what you're looking for, are you actually embodying that yourself? Um, and there's a quote from Paulo Coelho. Is that, am I saying that name right, Rosalind?
I was just thinking the same thing. I don't, I've never
So
attempted to say that out loud, but he's the same person who authored the Four Agreements and other really influential books. Yeah.
yeah, so Paul and Coelho, he reminds us that love can only be found through the act of loving. So it's not a passive matter of sitting and just kind of waiting for the perfect love to come. What he's saying is you have to be living love actively, and that's what makes us magnetic.
Yeah,
Ross.
exactly. So you got to get to work. There's no sitting around and waiting, especially for the type of love that we're speaking about. And I think that many people are seeking in today's society, where it's not just being with someone just to be with them, but really forming a true, deep partnership that challenges you to grow and helps you reach your full potential in life.
Yeah. And when we're talking about actively practicing the matter of love and embodying what it is that you're looking for, I think about the fact that when I've been in previous relationships, I have very often expected that the other person would kind of meet me meet me where I'm at. So, I am this person that, I have the high standards. I expect to be able to live a good life. I expect that, things would be a certain way. And I was expecting them to meet that particular expectation and standard and meet where I am. I don't think what I did enough of was being willing to meet them where they are at as well. And that's something I really had to learn where I was going. If I'm expecting just to that to a certain degree, there are things about me, there are things that I'm coming with that I expect the other person to be, well, you know what? I'm going to love you anyway, um, in spite of, despite whatever the things are. Um, and not being able to reflect that back, that was never going to be a good match.
Yeah. Or you have to have grace for the other person as well. We're all on our individual journeys and in different places. And if we say we want the kind of relationship where, one misstep or mishap doesn't mean that it's, forever broken or the relationship's over. We can really continue to learn more about each other, explore and grow ourselves as individuals and in the context of the relationship. Then we have to have that grace as well. Same as we would for ourselves.
Yeah. And I love that you're pointing out, Ross, in this whole matter about having grace for ourselves, because one of the questions we need to ask ourselves is, how am I practicing love? Even without a partner, how am I practicing love? So there's a way in which how you are actually treating yourself is a preparation for, one, how others will see you, and two, how they then will treat you. So how are you starting with yourself to be more gracious? And even as I spoke about the example of me not necessarily, um in some past relationships, not being gracious enough with others to appreciate differences and so on, then I've had to say to myself, well, that's happened in the past, and you've learned from that, and you're in a different space now. So even being able to be gracious with myself about that, and know that I am in a different place, I'm in a different space, having more of that capacity to love is something that I have been doing, because I want to be able to grow into that person that has the ability to be gracious to others, but it starts with yourself.
Yeah, really, I love that. And being, I'm coming from the perspective of someone who's deeply into my practice of yoga, meditation, mindfulness, to the extent that we can't have that grace for ourselves or for other people, we're essentially living in the past and bankrupting the present. So, yet another reason why it's so important to always be reminding ourselves that today is a new day. Today is another chance. Today is another opportunity. We can't stay stuck back there.
No, no. And I just want to be careful. So we've said, look, expanding that capacity to love, and therefore um be ready to receive love, means that you've got to be showing up differently, right? Showing up differently for yourself and for others. And when we are talking about embodying the things that you want, you said that you've needed from others, right? Whether that's love, compassion, kindness, whatever those qualities are that you're saying that you actually need, what we are also being mindful of is that you still got to set those boundaries, right? And there's a phrase from the Bible that talks about not casting your pearls to swine. And it's a very, very harsh phrase, but it is very, very relevant, especially when it comes on to speak to this whole matter of love and relationships. And what does it mean? It really is just saying that your pearls, the things that you have to offer, and I'm not talking about the cooking and the cleaning and all these wonderful things, other things. I'm talking about who you are as a person. Those are pearls. And what we're not saying is that you're going to be giving that out to any and everybody willy nilly, without standards, without boundaries. That's not what we're saying. And so what's important is that even as you're going out and you're experiencing dating and getting to know other people, that you're being mindful, that you're being discerning. And when I say discerning, I'm not saying looking at who is deserving of kindness, who is deserving of, you being compassionate to. It's more from a perspective of how do you gradually nurture that relationship. So, you know even now I'm very much so in the dating world, and one of the things that I have loved about a dating program that I've been on before, one of the things they said is really, really be mindful that as you go into relationships, that even if it's not that forever love and the two of you separate, that you leave that person better than you found them. So that's something that's resonated with me. Rustin, I don't know how you feel about that.
Definitely resonates with me also. And I want to pick up on something you said before I go in that direction regarding the, not casting pearls to swine. What we're not saying here for anyone listening is that it's not about superiority or inferiority. That's not what we're saying. It's not about being judgmental. We recognize that all of us have intrinsic value and worth as
Yeah.
humans, right? On this, or any of the creations that live on this planet. What we're talking about is not going down the path of just laying it all out and investing with someone with whom you're not aligned. Same
Yeah.
as, if you're looking for, I don't know, say there's a suit jacket that you love. Typically, you wear a 6, but you need a little longer sleeve because you're tall. And I'm speaking from experience here, right?
Yes, tall girl.
You know, like, is there enough? You're not going to buy a 10. It's not a right fit. Could you maybe buy an 8? If there's some extra fabric, you can take it to the tailor and get it fixed so that the sleeve length is long enough. Then maybe that works for you. But what we're saying is you're not going to spend time trying to make it work with a size 10 or 12 if you really need a 6 or an 8.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what we're saying here.
Yeah.
But
I,
with
I
respect, oh, go ahead, Kai.
no, 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 you finish what you're saying.
With respect to leaving someone in a better position or enriched for have knowing no have knowing have for having known you. I wanted to pick up on that point because and both Kai and I are still we're out in the dating world and meeting men in different ways, and it can it's just by definition, not everyone that I'm meeting is going to be the one, so to speak.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I can't enjoy the process of getting to know someone, of becoming curious about who they are and how they grew up and how they became the person they are.
Yeah.
And I was having conversations with a doctor at one point, and like me, he's into biohacking and making sure that we get the right supplementation and tweaking the exercise program for peak performance, not just for the body, but in life. And so I'm not in a relationship with him. We didn't continue talking to each other, but over the course of the time that we were, I learned so much. I mean, he was
Yeah.
sharing his medical perspective and podcasts, and we traded information, and I was sharing things about the benefits of meditation and the way that I time my eating and all of that. So both of us enriched in that way. Maybe it wasn't, the romantic match. We're not going to be at the altar next year, but that doesn't mean that it was lost time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that for you. Remember when you shared that with me, I got so excited because as I referenced this whole matter of leaving people better than you found them. And I think sometimes if we're not careful, when we do meet people, um, if along the way we find out that they are not quite the right match for us, if we're not careful, we can end up then denigrating the other person, really making it out that or where they were not no good anyway, and I'm by no means saying, there are persons who, if they behave horribly, you might come to the conclusion this was definitely not a good person. But I want us to be really mindful, as in that example, as in that example that Rosalind you just gave, that there are still opportunities for us to meet people, learn from each other, right? And there's something that you said to me, Rosalind, over the course of the past year, when we have been in situations where we're dating and getting to know people, and sometimes it's just this passing opportunity where you've met someone, it's just brief, right? You said, Kai, get your practice in. you know, get your practice in.
That's right.
And the practice doesn't mean you're using anyone. The practice means that you are continuing to embody um, who it is that you wanted to attract, regardless of the situation that you find yourself in, regardless if you think it's a forever love. I can still have a kind and considered conversation with them. I can still do the work of trying to figure out, learn learn more about them, and find out what kind of person that they're looking for. Now obviously when you find it's not the right match, you move on. But what we're saying is, don't dismiss the opportunities to embody the love that it is that you are looking for, all being all being within boundaries, continuing to set those standards. And the way that you do that is by using your discernment. So let's talk about that. We're talking about using discernment. What does that even look like or mean for you, Rosalind?
The conversations that we've been having leading up to this week, I think, are fundamental for preparing ourselves to be able to approach each interaction from a place of being crystal clear about, well, and maybe not crystal clear, I should say, having more certainty than when we started about what we value, what we're looking for, and then being able to approach our interactions with others with at least an idea in mind of the kind of person that we want to connect with. That person in turn becomes a mirror for us, and it's like, all right, well then, am I being who I need to be to conjure up, to draw out, or to receive those qualities, those values, to be a match for what I say that I want. So it's being discerning about, does this person who's sitting in front of me or who's on the other end of a call, are their words, actions, what are they, who they're being? Do those things align with
Mm,
what I said that I want? And in turn, am I aligning my words and actions
yeah,
with being the person who can hold, who can receive and hold what I said that I want
yeah,
in my relationship?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it goes back to this whole matter of alignment. So if you are clear on your own values and visions, that discernment is really about checking it back. Is this showing up in this interaction with this person, in how they are interacting with me, and how in turn I am interacting with them, and going back to our capacity for love. Um, if we're wanting to call in the one, if we're wanting to be magnetic and attract the things that we desire, we must be willing to grow ourselves beyond the person that we know ourselves to be today. And look, I one of the things that I do in my work, as a resilient strategist, is I do have a lot of clients that are women, and I know that in the workplace, we're constantly telling women how to work better, be more confident, and how to be more strategic to be able to get what they want in the workplace. So somehow we're always teaching how women to be better. Um, what we want to be mindful of, though, is that even as good as we are today, there's always room and capacity for us to evolve and to grow. Different situations will show up different areas of our life that we think, oh, well, actually, that's an area I can evolve in.
Yeah,
you know,
shining that light, right? Turning shining a light on that darkness.
exactly. Shining a light. And I know for me, um, when I look back at past relationships, I remember there was one guy who said to me, "Oh my God, I feel like you're looking to marry yourself." And at the time, I was really upset because I was like, "No, I'm not. I just have high standards." Da, 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 da. And it was past that relationship that I realized that actually, genuinely, maybe I was looking too fiercely and too closely, expecting this person to be exactly like me. And that's not what you're looking for. I'm looking for somebody that will complement me. And so, as part of my own growth, I had to revisit genuinely, what is it that I'm looking, what is it that I need from others? What is it that I need from a partner? And then what am I bringing as well to that relationship that complements what that partner is bringing? And that for me was part of my growth in having a very honest conversation about maybe I was being so fiercely strict about what I was expecting that I was actually genuinely ruling out persons that could be a good match for me and could complement who I was. But then I had to evolve. And readiness isn't about perfection, it's about that willingness to be more patient, to be more honest, and be more compassionate with ourselves, and therefore have that capacity for others.
Yes, well, approaching it from a place of being conscious, not just kind of people. We use the term, we have it, falling in love, and that's not what we're after here.
Oh, I love that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, Rosalind.
Yeah, I mean, as I was reflecting on our conversation today, I was looking into, and from my perspective, with the my ideal future state being in a healthy marriage with the right person, thinking about the evolution of marriage over time. And it's really been more of a means to an end, not necessarily something that we've done because we're approaching it in this way, right? Where people, it used to be about, making sure that you had the right vehicle for continuing your lineage, about
Yeah.
um, protecting assets. I mean, in women, we were even considered property until recently. Couldn't do things without husbands. So it's more recent that we're putting love as a priority, placing
Yeah.
love as a priority. And in some ways, ironically, that puts even more demand on that that container of marriage,
Yeah.
because it's not just about the contract of it, about what people can create together, whether it be children or building a portfolio of assets or otherwise, but also being a place where we can grow into our full potential as individuals and do that together.
Yeah.
And so it absolutely is not something that we can, and even if someone's goal isn't marriage, right? If the goal is to have a loving relationship within which you can do that,
Yeah.
it's even more imperative then that we approach it from a conscious place, and it's not just about falling in love, but creating that love,
I love that. I
becoming
love
it.
that.
Yeah,
Mm.
we have to invest, right? Our in ourselves, and then in that other person.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. And I'm just pausing in this moment about this whole idea of creating love, not just falling into it. Because it goes back to um, what we said in our very first episode about this intentionality. This this in the same way that when we think about our careers, we are thinking about, okay, so this is the kind of roadmap, that's where I'm heading to, and this is the roadmap to kind of and steps to get there, and we invest time and energy. It's the same way that this is not just about randomly expecting things to just fall into our lap, or just thinking we're going to meet this prince charming and then we just fall into love. um
I like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
it
hey,
can
girl,
it
love.
can happen. It can happen. um I was sharing with Rosalind, I was sharing with Rosalind how I met this lady who, you know, as we do as women, we were talking about love, relationships, or whatever not. And she's married, happily married. And we had been talking about how what the dating scene is like, going out to coffee, meeting men on the train, the coffee shops, the wherever we're gonna meet them, right? Um, or on the apps. And we're saying, you have to go out. Go out so you can meet somebody. And she said, well, I actually met my husband at home. And I'm not talking on the dating app. She literally had a situation where a man had knocked on her door. He was there to do something. It wasn't a trade. It was, can't remember what it was now. Knocked on her door. She answered the door. It was love at first sight for him. And long story short, he had met with the family, and the whole relationship developed. And here she was, happily married, a year or two after that. And so it was hilarious. It was this real kind of princess story where she was at home in her castle, and someone came and they kind of fell in love.
I
But
mean,
the
that
reality,
sounds good.
come again, what?
That sounds good, but I don't know that we want to rely on exceptional
Exactly.
situations, right? We're not going to anchor ourselves in that, small percentage.
Exactly.
That's amazing, though, that it happened for her.
It was such an amazing story. And when I tell you, I mean, I haven't spoken to them for years, but the couple I met was really genuinely such a good match. Um, the reality is that for most of us, that's not going to happen. And who knows what preparation both of those people actually went through for that magical moment to happen, for them to come together and be in such a good relationship. Because the reality is that for most good things, right, there is going to be a requirement of us to show up, a requirement of us to invest our time and energy wisely. And so what we're saying is, you know, make sure that you are investing the time and energy wisely for you to get the result that you want. As much as we don't want to admit it, relationships are transactional. Yeah. That sense of your energy and time and care are really it's an exchange. So when, Russell, when you gave that example earlier about when you met this person who was a doctor and you exchanged value, he was telling you about a bit of biohacking, you were sharing some of your own practices. And so there was an exchange that was going on there. So even though it didn't last forever, there was still value. So you didn't see it as a waste of time. And so I want us to really encourage that when every connection that we made, even those that don't last, recognize that they can still teach you something. Yeah. And so be open to that. So even as we come to a close, um, there are some real questions that we'd like to invite you to think on. So for many of us, what we want, many of us, we know what we want, but are we showing up as someone ready to sustain it? So, are you? Love is patient, kind, and responsive and honest. Are you embodying those qualities? You know you want it from someone else, but are you embodying love that is patient, kind, responsive, and honest? Le-
Challenge.
Sorry?
That's a challenge. That's a
It
big challenge.
is. It is such a challenge, you
Yeah.
know? And we want you to, and as we said, for those who have not watched the previous episode where we spoke about honoring your need for others and what is it that you're looking for others. But for those who have, and that discussion that we had, Rosalind, we invite you to reflect on your list of needs. So we spoke about things like consistency, responsiveness, honesty, a bit of autonomy. So are you giving what you seek? That's the challenge.
Yeah. So we want to make this a journey, right? These conversations they build on one another. So we invite you, if you haven't, again, as Kai mentioned earlier, if you haven't watched the previous episode, please do that. And we gave that exercise at the end. So today's builds on the last one. And we take this moment for reflection. So if you have your list, bring it out. And if you don't, you can just take a moment to think about the qualities that you would desire in your person, the way you want to be loved, how you want to feel seen, supported, and valued in that relationship. From there, you can then ask yourself, how am I already embodying these qualities in my own life? Where do I still need to grow to match that love I desire? What is one action this week that I can take that could help me practice being a greater, a more proficient, a more passionate lover? Not just romantically, but in how I show up in friendships, family relationships, and even my own self care. So we invite you to reflect on those questions and then take a deep breath and remember, in order to have great love, one must begin by becoming a great lover.
Wow. Thank you so much, Roslyn. We have had quite a conversation today, and there's a lot to reflect on. I think for Roslyn and myself, every time we have these conversations, whether it's on or offline, we are always learning and we're always putting into practice again all that we're sharing with you. And as we've mentioned before, we have a cohort of women that we host. It's a community for becoming magnetic. It's a 6 week course, and we hold sessions where we hold each other accountable for this journey of calling in the one, becoming magnetic. And so we talk about themes, much like what you've been seeing us do on these podcast episodes. There are live exercises. Sometimes there's even live meditation or practices that our lovely co-host Roslyn would lead us through. I lead us through some very valuable exercises as well, through finding love, through finding your own values, etc. And we'd love to invite you to join us. So if you do want to join the next cohort, the link is down in the description. But in the meantime, we want to thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Becoming Magnetic.
Amen. And I one small edit. It's a 7 week experience.
That's true.
And, I don't want people to be like, "Ah,"
Oh, it's so true.
yeah. We hope that this conversation inspires you to expand your capacity for love, not by searching harder, but by growing deeper. And part of the real benefit, I think, of having these conversations with a cohort of other women who are on the journey is that, it's one thing for you to hear the questions that Kai and I are posing or reflect on the ideas for yourself or in your journal. But within that cohort of women, we do have an opportunity to really challenge each other's paradigms. And sometimes the shift can happen if something, you thought you were doing or some way you thought you were being is reflected back to you by the other ladies, like, hey, maybe there's an opportunity here to think about something differently or to show up differently. So definitely, Kai, gave you the details. You can look in the show notes and sign up for the waitlist for our next cohort. We invite you to do that.
Absolutely. And if you love this episode, please do share it with another woman who's ready to lead her love life with intention. Don't forget to join the wait list. And you can connect with Rosling and myself here on YouTube, but also in other spaces in social media. You can check those out in the show notes. But until next time, remember that becoming magnetic really starts with becoming more of who you truly are. So I've been Kai
This is Rosalind.
with the Becoming Magnetic podcast. We see you next time. Bye.
Take care.